Hello and welcome back to What Steven Reads. My name is Steven. I am sorry for the week off, but I'm back. I just needed a week off, mainly because I didn't finish as many books as I wanted to read in order to make a video for you, and some other things came up that kind of prevented me from reading. One which was playing a game. Where'd it go? It's right there. Whisper of the Dark on my ROG Ally. Fun little organization game with a little bit of mystery to the little town. It's a fun little game. Check it out if you can. It's relaxing. I like it. Thanksgiving happened, which I didn't really do much for Thanksgiving, but I did work the Wednesday before in the evening, and I did want to bake a pie for my family. Actually, cream cheese. I make a really good American cheesecake, and I just did not do that this year. I did promise my sister-in-law I would make one for her next year. It comes out really well. It's really good. So I'm definitely gonna try and do that before Christmas and make some cheesecake deliveries. And I'm also getting a bit more into photography. That's my Ricoh GR3X. And obviously the camera that is on top of the tripod right now is my EM5 Mark III from Olympus, which is a micro four thirds camera. And I used ChatGPT today to give me some suggestions for improving the video quality for YouTube, and it's a lot of in and out of menu systems and changing this and that because micro four thirds isn't great in low light, and I don't have a lot of light coming in from the window, which is on that side, and I have two lamps on that Peter set up for me, and I changed the ISO, I changed the Kelvin to make it a little bit cooler because I thought it was looking a little bit too warm. And we'll see how this comes out when I edit this video. Hopefully it works out, because I was going to get a Canon 50V, I think it is, Canon R50V, which is a newer version of the R50, and it's better for video production, and it's cheaper than most cameras. Like if I want to get the upgrade version of this, which is now OM Systems, not Olympus, it's I think 1700 or maybe a little bit lower than that, I'm not sure. So I was gonna run out today, and then I checked GPT to try to help me with the settings, and it was just very convoluted. I think I got it pretty well, and I also changed my lens. It's 25mm Panasonic, which is equivalent to a 50mm on a full frame sensor. I hope there's not a lot of texture. Again, when I edit it, copy it over. We'll see how it works out. I did some test videos before, and it looked pretty okay. So back to the reading. As you know, I did a challenge the last video, 10 before the end, and I coincided that with the Goodreads Reader's Choice Awards, and I only picked books that I have purchased. I didn't run out and buy anything new, and it started off really well. The first book I read was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I am definitely becoming a Taylor Jenkins Reid fan. This is the second book I've read by her, first one being The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And Atmosphere was fantastic. You have Joan and Vanessa. It's a sapphic romance. I don't know why they don't call them lesbian romances. I guess sapphic is the more literary term. Either way, I really enjoyed it. And the one character I wish Taylor Jenkins Reid would expand on and write a book is her niece. Her niece's name was Frances. And Joan just adores and loves her so much. I would just love to see her have her own novel and to see how her life turned out as she got older. Joan's really close with her, and even Vanessa becomes close with her as the story continues. Just fantastic writing. I just really enjoy Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know which book I'm going to get next from her. That's obviously going to be a little bit of ways off because there's other stuff I want to get to, but I definitely look forward to reading more of her novels. It's about women enlisting with NASA. They're immensely smart women. There's also men that are also recruited. And obviously, you know, it's set in 1980. It starts off in 1979, I think. So women don't have a big role with NASA or the military or anything as far as that stuff goes. And it's just a fantastically written story about what they're going through, and I have to say most of the male characters are supportive, but there's obviously snide remarks, and the book entails some of that and just what they have to endure. But it wasn't anything too realistic, I think, of what women probably would have gone through in the military. I think that the men that are recruited to join NASA have a higher intelligence level and hopefully more respect for women. But overall, I thought the book was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely look forward to reading another Taylor Jenkins Reid book. Then after that, I moved on to Automatic Noodle, which is more of a cozy book. I think that's how they were promoting it. Science fiction with robots. And this is where my reading journey this month just kind of went down. It was 2 science fiction books that I just did not enjoy, which is so strange because I love science fiction. I love science fiction movies and TV shows, and I love robots and androids and R2-D2, C3PO, Data from Star Trek. I love all that stuff. But in books, I just don't think I enjoy it very much, and it could be the writing. If there is a book with robots or androids in it and it's compelling, and I'll tell you what I didn't like about Automatic Noodle. Automatic Noodle, it's about a restaurant where all of a sudden, it's set in a dystopian world where things have gone crazy, and a lot of the books I'm reading are definitely about the environment changing and just everything going just crazy, unbelievable with the atmosphere and the weather and all that stuff, climate concerns. And for whatever reason, they're reactivated and they want to take over the restaurant because the owners are not there anymore. And they're cute characters, but this is, I don't know how far off in the future it's set. Everything is pretty much, artificial intelligence, and there are humans in the book too. But there was a point where one of the robots wants to check the lease where the restaurant is, or the mortgage agreement, I don't know. And it's an AI program, and she's talking to it, and I'm like, this just might be too over my head, or just to a point where maybe if it was a movie or a TV show, I'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool, I can get into that. And I just lost interest, and I did not finish it. I put it down, and then I moved on to, I always forget the name of it, Luminous by Sylvia Park. And I had high hopes for this. And I remember when I bought it, there was 1 copy in Barnes & Noble, and I had to use the restroom. So I asked the guy, behind the counter, could you just watch this for me for 1 second? He's like, oh, there's a table by the restroom, which I already know that about Barnes & Noble. They put little tables, you put your books down, use the restroom, and go get your crap when you come out of the bathroom. And I was like, yeah, that's the only copy that you have. He was like, oh, okay, no problem. So I was excited to read it, and it's, again, about cyborgs and robots, but it's also a missing person mystery. There's also a story about the one woman who works for the company that makes the robots. It was trying to do too many things at once, and I DNF'd it. I just could not get into it. I'll try it again. If I do try it again, I'm going to read it from the beginning, because you know how time passes and you try and get back into a book and it's just not working. So I will try. But for someone who loves robots and science fiction and I don't know, it was just too much for me. I just could not get into it. Yeah, Luminous had too much going on. I don't know what the author was less focused. I don't know, but that could be me. Maybe that's expected for something like that. And then things got good. I started reading The Merge by Grace Walker, and The Merge is a story about, it's the future. Again, there are climate concerns and food supply concerns, and this is new technology where people can merge their minds. And the main character, Amelia, she wants to merge with her mother who has Alzheimer's, and she's not too sure if she wants to go through the procedure. And I don't think the mother, Lori, wants to go through the procedure. That's definite. And it came off as a little bit of a thriller to me, where Amelia is trying to figure things out with this company that's doing it. Are they doing the right thing? Are they deceiving people? And so it got to part 2, where I felt like it was a lot about the mental struggles of having 2 minds in you, and just kept going on and on. And I made the mistake of checking AI, Gemini, and a little bit of Chat GPT. I'm like, does the story change? I mentioned one character, his name is Albie, and that's Amelia's boyfriend. when do we see Albie again? And it says, there's no mention of Albie. I'm getting like frustrated. But it kept saying that it just kept going on and on about the plight of, two thoughts in one mind and psychological horror and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it's not going to get better. I said, all right, I'm going to just keep going. And it did get better. By part 3, things start getting really interesting. And I'm not saying the first 2 parts weren't interesting. Part 1, very literary fiction with the relationship with the mother and Albie. Part 2, about the conflicts. And then 3, where things start to get wrapped up. But the point is, I should not have checked ChatGPT. And I wish ChatGPT would be a little bit, and Gemini, about saying, and this is kind of what I realized, it didn't read the book. So it doesn't know everything about the book. What's going on are reviews from people. And I guess in a lot of the reviews, people might have been talking about the psychological horror aspect of the novel. Nobody apparently mentioned the boyfriend Albie. And it just couldn't give me those answers. So, 1, don't jump the gun and look up spoilers for books, because I have a tendency to sometimes look up spoilers. So I was disappointed in knowing that, but then I kept going, and I actually wound up enjoying the novel. So don't use ChatGPT. Don't assume that ChatGPT or Gemini are reading full novels to tell you what's going to happen, because that's not going to happen, unless it finds some spoiler site and just reads all of that. And it may ask you, do you want to know all that stuff? I don't know. But I really did enjoy it. I thought it was well written. A concept that is absolutely horrifying about joining 2 minds and what happens to the other body that didn't get, chosen to be used for the minds. So yeah, I do recommend this book, The Merger. It did not make the final list for Goodreads, but who cares? Not everything's going to make it. I don't think enough people read the book or left enough reviews, because the review rating I think is okay on Goodreads, but I do recommend that book. And then after that, what I did want to mention about The Merge was I started listening to it on Spotify. I have Spotify Premium, so you get, I think, 15 hours a month. But I think I'd started reading something else. But anyway, I had 2 chapters left. One chapter, Spotify said, was 9 minutes, and the other one was like 12 minutes, and it just stopped. It said I ran out of time. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I wasn't home, because I bought the book, I have it. And I had to wait till I get home to finish those 2 chapters. It was so frustrating, and I said, all right, let me check Audible, because I have a trial subscription to Audible, so I have 2 credits, which I'm not gonna waste on reading 2 chapters of a book that I already own, and have a copy on Spotify. So that was disappointing. So Spotify, and I topped up back in like May, and I'm like, well, where are those minutes? Because it's supposed to roll over. And then I was Googling that, and someone said that they had the same issue, but apparently I must have used them. I'm not gonna complain to Spotify and waste my time about lost minutes of reading time, or listening time rather. But anyway, so that was that for The Merger and my Spotify annoyances. And then I moved on to The Lilac People by Milo Todd. I am still reading that book, so I'm not going to give you an in-depth talk, which we're not getting too in-depth about anything. I'm just keeping you, up to date on my reading progress. But it's a World War II book set in Germany, and it is about a few and this is the term that they use, transvestites, because they learned that term is not used anymore. I think just transsexual is used, but I'm using transvestites as being just men who just dressed up as women, or women who just dressed up as men. Apparently that's not used anymore. I don't know, I'm not going to get into all that stuff. And I did not know that in Germany it was very open before World War II and the rise of Hitler. I had no idea. And then, he came into power. They fled. They wound up going to a farm of the main character's former friend's parents, and he was staying there. And it's a very emotional book. It's about World War II in Germany, so people were in the bands that had like different symbols of whether you were Jewish, whether you were gay, or whether you were transvestite, and you had different symbols. I don't know the terminology for all of them, but I learned a little bit. And then the Americans come in to, I don't know, whatever they wanted to do in Germany, but they were rounding up all of the people and assuming that they were all on the side of Hitler and treating them like just disrespectfully, and it's just kind of gross. I don't know all the true facts of everything. I'm definitely interested in reading a book about that. You know, something a little bit more, something nonfiction in history of Germany after World War II, and then the U.S. Army came in to take over temporarily or whatever they did. But scary. And then, yeah, so that's it for those books. I am going to move on to more books after that were on my list. I did buy one more. I picked up, let's see, of Monsters and Mainframes. The only reason I picked it up was because it came out on paperback. I don't know how that happened. Usually it's a long time. I know The Wedding People, I'm still waiting for that to come out on paperback because I read it and I don't want to buy a hardcover book of it, but I want a copy of it to talk about at the end of the year because I read that this year. But yeah, it came out on paperback and I picked that up. So, you know, it was cheaper, and I think I had some credit with Barnes & Noble. And I'm going to move on to Wild Dark Shore after The Lilac People. One of these two. So I want to finish these two before the end of the year, or my 10 before the end, and I will maybe try and get back to those two sci-fi robot books. I don't know, we'll see. And then I'd shown you already the Tim Curry autobiography, and I do have a copy of that book, but it's also on Spotify. No, not Spotify. Like I said, I have a trial of Audible, and it has 2 credits. I don't understand how Audible works. I gotta look into it. I don't want to spend money by accident. I'm like, I'm spending money, but then I have credit. I don't know. But it's narrated by Tim Curry, and I think that's awesome. So I'm going to read that in tandem with listening on Spotify. I think I'll enjoy that. Like I said, I'm a Tim Curry fan. Love Clue, the movie. It's a cult classic, which I loved it before it became a cult classic. It was really cool. And I think that's a wrap for today. I made some changes to the setup. I can't decide where I want to film. I don't know if it really matters. What's the difference if I'm on a couch 1 week or in the library? Like I said, I was going to run out and buy a camera today, but hopefully these settings work. We'll see how it works out. I don't want to have to spend money on a new camera. I did buy a new laptop. I got it in Costco. It was, I think, $400 off. That was not a Black Friday thing. That was before Black Friday. And, you know, years ago I used to buy super expensive computers because I wanted a gaming machine, and now I'm doing video editing. But I'm like, the computer I had, which is now upstairs, and it was okay. It was just very sluggish and would lag or whatever. So this laptop, it's a Legion 5, not a Pro, just Legion 5 16-inch screen. And I reconnected my Wacom drawing tablet, which I hadn't had. And it's fine. I don't need a $2,500 laptop. I hope I don't. And I enjoy having a laptop because I can sit in front of the television in, you know, the living room or whatever, put it in the dining room. So yeah, so we'll see how that goes, how the editing goes. And as you've seen in past episodes, videos, whatever you want to call them, trying different things with zooming in, the pan zoom in, and all that stuff. But this one's a tighter shot with the 25mm, and I'm trying to avoid all that editing stuff because I do have to go to a job. I can't just sit home and edit all the time. But we'll see. I might be tempted to edit or pop in some shots of books and stuff. And I am happy with the shot. I'm getting a little bit of bokeh from the bookshelf because this is a 1.7 aperture f-stop. So I'm getting a little bit more depth of field, which I wasn't getting with the better lens, but it was meant for outdoors, which was an f-stop minimum of 4. Anyway, all that technical stuff. If anyone's using the Canon 50V, R50V, let me know. It looks really cool. It's meant for content creation, and there's a record button right in front of the camera instead of reaching behind. And it just seems nice. It doesn't look like a normal camera. It looks like it's more geared for video. And just please like and subscribe. Follow, that'd be awesome. Follow me on Instagram, same name, What Stephen Reads, Stephen with a PH. And I will catch you next time. So I'm going to do a video before Christmas and Hanukkah and all that stuff. And I do hope to get back to a weekly schedule. But I want to read stuff. I don't want to just come on here and make up videos and talk about, come up with some list of books. And you're just going to hear me talk about the same books over and over again. That's going to get a little bit redundant. If you want to see me draw, let me know. I don't necessarily want this to become a vlog. personal video. It's supposed to be about books, but if there's other stuff that I'm interested in that you want to see, like games or photography, I'm bad at this. There we go, somewhere over there. I think it's there. It's all blurry. Here's the Ricoh GR3X, which the GR4 just came out. I'm not getting that. It's ridiculous. It's just too much money. Everything's expensive. It's insane. All right, I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.